Now, thanks to Amazon and the fact that their machines are completely digital, their machines do not care whether they're printing the same book as the last one or a completely different book. Do not care. Print, bind, cut, send it down the chute with the shipping label on it. It does not care. What that allows me to do is to print a single book at the same price I would pay if I got 10,000 through Amazon. Right? So I, as the small business operator, benefit from the existence of the big business. Now, in clothing, there are machines where you put on a roll of fabric and it sucks that fabric in, cuts it, laser cuts it according to whatever the design is that it's been given, and sews it all the way around the edges and so forth, and spits out a completed garment, maybe with the neck still needing to be done, but by and large a completed garment out of a single machine. At the moment, those machines still need to be set up the way that printers used to need to be set up. Oh, we're going to do a run of these t-shirts. That will not be true for very long. It'll be a very small amount of time. And I, as a clothing designer or a merch designer, could go, you know what, I want to change the cut of my design. And I could get a single one done and sent out, drop shipped out to a customer, manufactured on the spot for the same money as if I had done a run of 10,000 of them. So the technology is enabling decentralization, which will enable a return of small business. But actually what that's going to be, and this comes back to the technology piece and the integration of more skill sets, it's the entrepreneurs that can see the opportunities that are created by the existence of these technologies and these large businesses, the likes of the Amazons of this world, spotting that opportunity early.
And those large businesses largely become commoditized as well, right?
Correct.
And AI becomes commoditized. And then, you know, in essence, and we've spoken a lot about a lot of negative things today, but in essence, the positive upside to all of this is that we continue to get more choice and our standard of living continues to increase in this world.
The future is going to be decided by who wins out of two forces: technology and commerce creating wealth, and government destroying it.
Well, I would say that we're no longer in a left versus right battle. We're in an accelerationist versus the decelerationist, or the ones who want to maintain the status quo.
And I've got to say, I'm leaning more accelerationist these days.
Oh,
I didn't.
I'm all in accelerationist.
Let's explain the terms. So a reformer or a decelerationist says, hey, we can get back. We can recover from where we are back to something better. The accelerationist says, we're going to go to hell in a handbasket. So the sooner we do that, then the sooner we can rebuild out the other side of the collapse. Now, I've been a reformer. I've got to say, after this last federal election, I'm starting to think that maybe the accelerationists had a point.
Well, if you look at the US, right? Like you look at who was standing there in the inauguration, it was Bezos, it was Musk, it was Zuckerberg, it's David Sachs. It's all these people that are trying to accelerate towards the future.
Yeah.
One big thing though is people need to embrace it, right? You need to embrace the technology. You can't be scared of it. But like I look at my parents, probably Mark's parents, maybe even James's parents, that haven't embraced technology. I look at my grandmother. I'll use her as an example again. She's never driven a car, ever. She's never had her driver's license, right? And I look at that and it just boggles my mind, right? That you can actually live 86 years old, right, without driving a car. She never embraced that technology. Right? I look at someone like my dad, right? He hasn't embraced technology. He doesn't know how to use a computer.
But will our kids
and an email and right?
Will our kids ask the same question?
Right? Myself. There's certain technologies I've embraced, and there's other technologies I haven't embraced to a deeper level of learning, right? Because it's generational, right? And I think it'll just be the same thing. Like, where we can't just assume where we're going to be in 30 years from a technological perspective. Like it's mind-boggling to think that now I could just go, okay, Topher Field, okay, I got to find out a little bit about this guy, and I can get 1,000 questions within 2 minutes. Where that would take someone days of research to do.
I use AI in the research for my videos all the time. But let's keep in mind, let's take a dose of humility when we look at the older generation. The rate of change is accelerating such that I can't, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but it's anticipated that by about 2030, we will be developing every year at a speed that used to take 40, 50 years. Each year's change and the new technologies. Now, the thing that gives me hope with all of that is that we are moving into a time where technologies are much more readily made user-friendly.
Yeah.
I used to build computers back in the day, PCs back, and you had to set the jumper switches on the back of the motherboard and do all that stuff, right? You had to, if you wanted to overclock, you were changing the speed of the internal clock, and it changed the speed of the front side bus and changed everything all at once, and you couldn't separately control them. Now you buy the parts, plug them in, it recognizes what it's got and goes, oh yeah, hi, I'm here. Right. And so the good news is that these maturing these rapidly developing technologies will be already more mature from a user-friendly point of view.
User-friendly is a key. Like I remember, I still have got PTSD around, setting up printers for your computer.
Gosh. Still have it.
Right. You literally need to call a consultant to set up your HP printer to your laptop back in the day. Now you have AirPrint and all these other things, and it's
yet
so
still somehow freaking thing never works.
Yeah, my printer's still fucked up.
Honestly, I've literally taken a hammer to a printer before.
Yeah,
I was
out of frustration.
Man, I was in the bank yesterday doing a conference call because my mum was in Melbourne and I was in up here, obviously, and it took us fucking 45 minutes just to get the call working and the voice, and it's like, oh my God, like all these, obviously because they're banks, they got the internal systems, but some things are still backwards.
Couldn't we just use FaceTime?
Exactly.
Ding, it's done.
No. I want to take the last, say, 10 to 15 minutes of this pod, unless you guys want to take it a different direction.
No, you go.
And I want to take it back to a little bit of economics.
Sure.
And I want to talk a little bit about housing.
Yeah.
And, and the crisis that we're in today. I had a friend of mine. I posted, a video not long ago, and it went viral. And it was, if you're on $200,000 a year, you're not going to be able to afford a home.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody sent me something of a mortgage broker yesterday, with my little video up top going, listen to this, internet fucking financial, analyst talking about how you can't, and he's like, $200,000 a year, you can fund $1 million property in regards to serviceability, right? And anyways, I messaged him and just said, hey, I think this would be a good debate. I'd love to, talk about this. No, I'm good, thanks. All right, no worries. But once you actually start calculating 200,000, and then you start calculating paying the tax on the 200,000, and then you start calculating the cost of living and rent and food and school fees and the rest of it, and you start seeing what you have left over that you can actually save after the car payments and the fuel and all the rest of it and the insurances. There's not much left over.
Sorry.
And one of the questions I have is, do you believe that the real estate crisis in Australia is a natural market failure, or is it a consequence of government interference?